All right, guys. So you're buying something at the moment, and the agent tells you there's another offer on the property. Is this real? We're going to give you some tips on this. Stay tuned.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes. Myself, Michael Bergio, Mark Novak, episode 1656. Buyer competition. There's one buyer. Fake competition. A lot of agents. There's a lot of buyers' perception. Agents lie. What a all of a sudden that you make an offer, there's another offer on there. This morning we're going to talk about how to handle from the buyer's point of view, but also the owner's point of view when selecting an agent. I think a great question owners should ask an agent, especially in this market where you're not getting multiple offers on properties. Ask the agent, if what is your dialogue and strategy to get me the best price when we only have one buyer and one offer on the property market. It's an important topic.
It's big. And I think when you're selecting an agent, you want to know how they're going to actually handle the process when it gets to the crunch, because, there's nothing worse than putting a fabulous buyer in front of a shit agent, and that just ruins the whole deal. That art of the deal. How do you actually select that agent that that's going to be an artist in that moment? And also, importantly, when you're a buyer buying something, how do you know you're dealing with an agent that's when they say there is another buyer on the property, there really is.
So I think I'll start with the commercial market, and I've been doing this for many years with great success.
How many years, Michael?
Many years.
Oh.
It's crazy to think now I quote 15 years in the industry, you're quoting 30, because in my mind, you were at 20 years when it started and I was at zero, and now it feels weird. I'm quoting. Anyway,
30,
we're experienced.
45 years between.
100 years of experience.
Yes, yeah.
Thousands of years. Now, in the commercial market, because I always found, similar to what residential is going in now, there's in commercial properties can be on the market for 6 months, 9 months, and you can't go to a buyer, and you shouldn't go to a buyer when they make an offer. All of a sudden, I have another buyer trying to bump up their price. So the strategy I would implement if I had a property coming to market for sale, I would also market the property for lease. Many other reasons why I do this, but let's just use the one buyer reason. Now, when you've got a property for sale, you may only have the one buyer, but also for lease, you may only have the one potential tenant. Now, the owner may lean towards selling the property, which means when we get that offer, we can confidently say, well, we've actually got another prospective tenant who's made an offer on a property, and they have. This is not. This example is not made up.
Yep.
We've got a tenant, they've made an offer, but the owner would prefer to sell. So our dialogue to that buyer is, we've got a great offer to lease it. Owner would prefer to sell. If you can increase your offer to X amount, we could get a deal done. And thinking ahead, and that's thinking ahead of the campaign, using your experience. Because what happens when a property, and what inexperienced and sort of bad agents do, it's on the market. For 6 months, they get the offer, and they say to that buyer, there's someone else also looking, you need to increase. And all the buyer thinks, it's been empty for 6 months. There isn't another buyer. Straight away, I don't trust you as an agent. Straight away, that means you're not going to get the best price for the owner, because you've lost all the rapport and trust with the buyer. And you've got to have that to make them feel confident to make their best offer and go ahead with the sale.
We were talking this morning about how Rolex does this.
Yeah, Rolex. And that's a Rolex. They're not scarce or rare for a Rolex, but they make you feel like it is, because the buying process is its journey on itself. You hear, like, you get
limited edition.
Yes, they put you on a list, and then you get a call saying
join the wait list.
Yeah, you join the wait list, and your endorphins go, yes, I'm on the wait list. Then maybe whatever, 6 months later,
3,000.
Then you get the call saying you're at the top of the wait list. Endorphins go up. You're now time to buy. and you've had all these hits of success and you're loving the journey all before you've even gone into the shop and buy it.
Yeah.
And then when you buy one, then the next thing is like, I want to do that again.
Yeah.
So it's not,
special.
it's special, creating that urgency. So, but Mark, what about in residential? Maybe do you want to go from the buyer's perspective?
Yeah. And I think, look, from the top, you don't, do you really want to buy something that nobody wants?
Exactly.
Then you're thinking, you know what, I gotcha.
Use your dance analogy. The girl on the
Yeah, the
dance.
girl on the dance floor. The girl on the dance floor. Like you want to be. Do you want to be that one on the dance floor that everyone wants to dance with? Absolutely. And then I think you got to make that buyer feel, and like Rolex is doing. And then
Yeah.
there is an art to that, and you're employing that as a real estate agent. And then how do you pick that bullshit if you're a buyer? I think that's super important. I've had friends that have been buying properties and they're like, you know what, they're saying there's another buyer on the property. I'm like, yeah, of course they're saying that. But I think to cut through it, I love dealing with a lawyer. So I've often had friends that have said, look, we're right at that crux of buying something, and I've said, sign a contract, send the contract to the lawyer of the seller, tell the agent that you're doing that as well. And that often cuts through a lot of red tape. So it's and they've actually bought the property successfully by doing that. I remember one recently that we've just did. I'm thinking the agent wasn't being transparent because the other buyer had something to sell. So the agent got a headed deal if they dealt with the other buyer. So I said to the client who I was helping, send a contract, signed contract with your offer to the solicitor of the vendor. Day later, exchanged. And she's like, I've been trying to do this for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
She says, why was I delayed and delayed and delayed? So I think that one buyer market, and to have that, to make yourself to sort of see around corners. And I think also you, as a buyer, you've got to hustle. Like if agents, it's hustling the hustler, because a great agent is obviously a little bit of a hustler. You've got to be able to sort of read through that bullshit and track through that.
Yeah, and I think it's also important for the agent, that in the example of residential, one buyer on a property, and you want to talk with that buyer you've got. It's not always about price. You want to confirm, do they have finance approval? What type of timing are they working with? And you can create urgency with that buyer, for example, going, wouldn't you like to have this exchange before Friday? You get your weekends back. Let's work towards that timeline. Let's try and buy a property. Let's try and secure this property before Saturday, because each Saturday there's more buyers that come through, and we see it all the time. Once we've got one buyer, then another buyer comes through. Wouldn't you like to secure this beautiful property before the weekend? So there's ways to work with your buyer to create that urgency than the typical one line, like I've got someone else. And that's just all buyers cringe. And that's where it's important for an owner to question. There's no problems in an owner when interviewing an agent is wanting to a bit of role play with the dialogue, because that will expose the bad agents with the good agents straight away.
Well, we often do a best and fairest when there's a couple of buyers actually on a property.
Yes.
And owners want us to role play what we're actually going to say to those buyers, because they don't understand how you can guide $1 million and sell it for 1.1.
Yes.
They want 1.1. They want you to ask 1.1, but if you put $1 million on it, you're going to have better quality inquiries. So they're like, how are you going to advance them from 1 to 1.1? So
that's spot on.
That's a big dialogue that we have. And what if you've got one buyer, two buyer, three buyers? How does that work? But I think most importantly, in summary, what we've been talking about is just give us a call. All the stuff we just spoke about now, you can always just ring us up and go, hey, I'm not buying through you guys, I'm not selling through you guys, but I want a little bit of advice on.
I love helping people do that. I end nearly every buyer conversation going.
People are shocked. They're like, oh, really?
And I love it because we love property. We love talking about property, especially in commercial where it can be so tightly held. I want to hear about other properties. I want to help give different point of view. And we're property lovers. We're positive. I hate it when agents, I see it a lot in, say, a social circle where someone will say, I want to buy this property. And because that agent they're negative because it's not their asset and they're only positive towards their listings. It's like, no, be pro property.
Yep.
If a friend or a
Big-
client
yep.
is looking at a property, it's a good buy.
That's fake.
Tell
That's
them it's a
real.
good buy.
That's real. That's real.
But yeah, I think
Do you want to explain before we go why we look like we're just woke up? We did a 4:45.
yeah, 4:45 gym, walking, prospecting. Like we've got the Queensland office with Kim. We're now thinking Sydney CBD. So we're just looking around,
Just rolling.
just rolling around,
rolling. So we
black on black.
every Friday. So that's why it looks like this. But guys, have a great day. Have a great weekend. Anything else to say before we go?
No, but get at it.
Get it. One buy market.
One buy market.